I'm Adam Anchel for Pro Football Weekly, along with our draft expert Nolan Naraki, taking a look at the grades in the draft for the AFC North. It's presented by Verizon Fios. And Nolan, we start with the Cleveland Browns. Big news during draft day, they traded back with the Atlanta Falcons, got a bunch of other picks, then the first round took Phil Taylor with that pick. How did you like their draft?
I think it was solid overall, mainly because of all the value they received from that trade. I think they just stacked up with too many picks for the future. They could come away with 3 to 4 starters based on that one trade alone. But you look at the top, I think Phil Taylor fills a solid need in the middle of their defense. I think Jabal Sheard is another guy on the outside that really is going to help their front. And you got Greg Little, who I think can walk in right away and be a #1 receiver. So I thought they got 3 solid starters with their first 3 picks, and I thought it was a very good start this year for Tom Heckard.
I know one of the guys that when we talked with PFW's Eric Edholm, he had a problem with the Owen Marisic pick. A fullback in the 4th round, too high?
No, you know what? He's a two-way player. I think for what he's going to bring to the locker room, I think he's going to have value. You know, he's a guy that other teams were considering as early as the 3rd, so I don't think it necessarily was too high.
Given how much they gave up for Julio Jones, did they get enough back in picks?
Well, I think when you look at what they got last year and then you factor in some of the veterans that they acquired, 4 picks, Seneca Wallace, Peyton Hillis, I think overall they just got too much value from this draft.
We'll see eventually how that all works out. Still a couple of picks in that trade next year. Baltimore Ravens given an A-. They ended up with the whole Bears debacle, and they ended up getting Jimmy Smith, their guy, though, in the 1st round. You like it?
You know what? It's a little bit risky, but if there's one team that could take a chance on Jimmy Smith, it was the Baltimore Ravens. I think Ed Reed and Ray Lewis will be able to hold him accountable in that locker room. They've shown historically that they've been able to take chances on guys late in the 1st round, and they pan out. So I think if there's one team that could do it, it was the Baltimore Ravens. Torrey Smith is another guy in the 2nd round I think has the speed that they need to open up that offense. And Ja Reed, I think, could come in and compete for a job at right tackle.
Moving down, looking at the bottom of their draft, they took Tyrod Taylor. Do you see him as a quarterback in their system or maybe converting?
Yeah, I think he'll be like a wildcat situational role player. And, you know, for a 6th round pick, it wasn't a bad value.
The Cincinnati Bengals, you gave them a B+. We know A.J. Green, one of the safest players in the draft, was their 1st overall pick. Looking at the rest of it, how'd you like the direction they went?
I thought Andy Dalton was a little bit of a reach, but that's where they had to take him, and he really fits Jay Gruden's offense, so it made sense. I don't know that he'll ever be the starter that they think he might be at that pick, but he could be a good solid backup. Dante Moak, I thought, was a good pick in the 3rd round, has a lot of upside potential, and I really like Clint Bowling in the 4th round. I think he's a guy that could become a starter readily in Cincinnati.
Do you think this spells the end of Carson Palmer's time in Cincinnati?
Well, they got the insurance they needed, but time will tell. They provided them enough support with this draft with A.J. Green. I think he's got to be happy with some of the supporting players that they brought in.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, you gave a C+. Why is that?
You know, Cameron Hayward I thought was a little bit overrated. He really fits that 3-4 defense. If there's one place that he could go, it's an out front like Pittsburgh. So it makes sense. I think Marcus Gilbert really fits their offensive line. He's got that size and that mashing power that they look for. And Curtis Brown was a solid pick, but I thought he was a little bit of a reach in the 3rd round, as well as Cortez Allen in the 4th. So I thought throughout the draft they just reached and they didn't come away with a lot of value that's going to provide starters.
That is a look at the draft grades for the AFC North. For the best draft analysis, be sure to follow us on Twitter or go to ProFootballWeekly.com.